emails, and attacking businesses like yours. Hi, Mark Sommerfeld from Rymark. Rymark has the tools and expertise to enable your employees to work securely from home. If you need help getting your staff to work remotely and securely, call 651-328-8900 or go to rymarkit.com. That's 651-328-8900 or rymarkit.com.
Spring and summer is the right time to install your fireplace. Find your perfect fireplace and have it installed and ready before the cold weather hits again. If you already have a wood fireplace, consider a fireplace insert or check out the entire selection at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces on East Franklin and Riverside in Minneapolis. It will transform your inefficient fireplace into a reliable, environmentally smart heating system.
This is Peter Solak, owner of Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. Have you ever watched your dog or cat curl up in front of a fire? It's primordial, the way it touches both the animal and the human. We know that fire reaches deep into the heart and soul. Let us show you how. We have over 35 working units on display here in Minneapolis. We are located at the east end of Riverside Avenue at 2901 East Franklin. From I-94, take the Riverside Avenue exit. Find us also online at woodlandstoves.com. Let us help you make a fireplace part of your life.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
As we age, it's important to invest in our health and to help protect it. Like the flu, COVID-19 is always changing. That's why it's important to stay up to date on your vaccines. By getting the flu and COVID-19 vaccines, you can renew your body's defenses and lower the risk of getting sick. Get your health boost and protect yourself against the flu and COVID. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Again, that's vaccines.gov. Vaccines.gov.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies tonight with a low around 32. Wednesday, about 1 inch of snow with a high near 35. And Thursday, partly cloudy with a high near 40. Get ready for Thanksgiving at Ferndale Market's Turkey Fest beginning this Friday in Cannon Falls. Reserve your fresh, never frozen turkey at Ferndale Market's Turkey Fest while enjoying local food samples and other great festivities. That's fresh, never frozen turkeys that make holiday prep easy with Ferndale Market.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous. Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hitting cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Cudahy Weed, all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local, national, Native news and events, and as you know, Chujunk, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Yes, you are right, Dega. This portion of the show is supported by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Well, this is day 19 of Native American Heritage Month, and how you holding up there, Haley?
I'm holding up pretty dang good. How about you, Dega?
Doing good. Still have a little cold, still trying to make things happen here. I had a reprieve, and then I had a fallback, and this is something that's going around, I've heard, too, that this little teeny nagging little cold I have.
I know. It always kind of seems to hit people before the holidays and then kind of after the holidays. So it's important to kind of get better and before you spend some time with your relatives coming up.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of hit better, we got our friend Ruth Buffalo, Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center, and I think she was throwing an axe earlier this week. I'm not sure. Welcome, Ruth.
Dosha, yes, thank you for having me.
Right on. Hey, were you able to go down to I can't say flannel jacks and throw the axe?
Yes, we were. We went Sunday and it was fun. So we have one more Sunday for fundraising. They had selected MIWRC, Flannel Jacks had selected MIWRC as a nonprofit they wanted to help raise funds for in the month of November on Sundays. So 25% of the funds raised or the proceeds that are generated at their business on Sundays, 25% of it goes to MIWRC.
That's awesome. What a great opportunity, and to get the word out too with such a great organization. Hey, you were out of town last week and for work. Can you tell us what listeners a little bit what you guys were doing out of town?
Sure. Yep. We were with the Birth Justice Collaborative. It's a Black and Indigenous women's collaborative focused on birth justice. There's a group up north Minneapolis, African American women and Black, and then down here in the south side is Natives, Indigenous. And so we're one of the 3 partners along with DIW and NAC who are working towards getting an American Indian birth center here in Minneapolis.
Wow, that's exciting. And I know Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center used to be really involved in that years ago. So that's great that you guys are doing that again.
Yeah, we're super thankful. It's beautiful, beautiful work. It's I'm a part of, I think like everybody, we have like heavy work that we're a part of. So it's really nice to be a part of something light for once, with birth. And all of us have, unfortunately, some common denominators with the group I'm with, is that we haven't had pleasant birthing experiences, even for our firstborns, and so that was kind of one of the commonalities that the Native women in my Master of Public Health cohort shared, was just having bad experiences when it should have been like a beautiful, what is a sacred time. And so based off of, for a number of reasons, we were treated poorly.
Wow. Wow, that's a heavy statement. I know a friend of mine had a really rough first pregnancy too, and we're godparents of her children, and so that's great to have you guys and other organizations out there speak out on that.
Yes, for sure. I think it's just everybody's responsibility to help where they can, be good to one another, help each other live good, healthy lives. Don't be bullies, don't be cyber bullies, don't contribute to harming one another. It's just how can we be good relatives to one another?
Yeah, definitely. I know you only have time for a quick segment today. I want to always get how people can find out more about your organization and how they can support you. So before, I have a good memory, but it's short. So before I forget, I got to please ask you to remind our listeners out there.
Sure. MIWRC.org. That website will link you to all of our socials. We have a big event tomorrow. It's our groundbreaking for the housing renovation project of the top 2 floors. We have tenant housing, and it's a good model. I think that others are replicating, which is good, so it's top 2 floors of MIWRC will be moving from 14 2 to 3 bedroom family units to 24 single units, supportive housing, emergency housing for our unsheltered relatives, and then also having access to the supportive services, direct services that we provide here on the bottom 2 floors.
That's amazing. Going 14 to 24, that is totally amazing. And again, your organization, Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center in Minneapolis, in the Twin Cities here, is a beacon of hope to a lot of people. So I just always have to say a big peeny gigi to you, Ruth, for stepping up and leading this organization in a good way.
Odds are good odds, yep, but it's so important that we continue to be good to one another, be good relatives, don't harm one another, whether it's online. I think people have such courage online, but in person, it's quite cowardly. So I think we should really be good relatives to one another. That's the bottom line that I hope we get across moving forward, and period. Elected officials are not please be nice to one another. Please be good to one another, because everybody's humans. Everybody has families, children, just be nice. Be nice.
Yeah, I agree. And thank goodness in my job, I haven't been attacked that much. But it's a thing. And I'm glad you bring it up, because this, overt stuff does happen, and we all got to really just be, like you said, nice to each other. And especially these times, I mean, all times for sure, but these times too, we need to really unite in a good way.
For sure. And I think, contributing to poor behavior doesn't do any one of us favors, and so I think we all have a responsibility to address this bad, poor, harmful behavior as well. Being silent basically is saying you condone these poor behaviors. And so hopefully, we continue to move forward in a good way and treat one another with respect, and set a good example for future generations, truly. And just realize that, we're all human, we're all pitiful human beings here for a purpose. And, we all come from different backgrounds. My mom, she grew up without running water, so that definitely shapes my worldview in being more understanding and finding ways to just be good to one another.
Yeah, I mean, really good point. We don't know what people are going through, and so to be judgy and judgmental is not a good thing. And I appreciate you bringing this up, because it's just a really, really good reminder how to be good relatives.
It is, and it's top of mind, because I was visiting with other Native women professionals here in the Twin Cities area, and they're sharing what they're going through, and it's just unacceptable to hear of how poorly, badly, Native women are being treated and targeted online. Cyberbullying is just unacceptable, big or small. And so it's just, when does it stop, and how do we hold these individuals accountable? I mean, when I was in office, I was attacked. My children were threatened, to be stolen. And people, to this day, try to cause harm online. And so it's a real issue, and we shouldn't condone this poor behavior, big or small, bullying online.
Right on. And I appreciate you bringing this up. And Ruth, I always appreciate you stopping in and speaking your truth. It means a lot to us here on Native Roots Radio, and especially Haley and I.
Matsigadats. See you.
We'll see you. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio. We'll be right back after this short break.
If the statistics say that 1 in 3 Native women and 1 in 6 Native men have experienced sexual assault in their lifetime, it means our whole community is affected by sexual violence. 1 is too many. Don't stand by, stand up. Don't engage in acts of sexual violence, and shut down the dirty jokes, the gossip, the victim blaming and shaming. As a community, we can change the way we respond. Contact the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition to attend a workshop to learn more.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Thinking about college? Consider checking out Minnesota Private Colleges. These 18 nonprofit institutions keep the focus on students with small classes and professors who will get to know you. You'll find students from all backgrounds, and no two colleges are alike. And when it comes to cost, they're more affordable than you think. Find the college that's right for you at mnprivatecolleges.org/possible. That's mnprivatecolleges.org/possible. Signing up for $1 bus and train rides with the Transit Assistance Program, or TAP, is quick and easy. Do it straight from your computer or phone by uploading one of the pre-approved documents listed at metrotransit.org/TAP along with a copy of your ID. They'll mail you a go-to card with a full year of discounted rides. For questions or translation help, call 612-373-3333. That's 612-373-3333.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio. This is Spirit from Reservation Dogs. Get up and listen.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Native American Community Development Institute, or NACD, in Minneapolis.
Yes, we really appreciate their support, and what a great organization they are. Hey, we have our special guest today, and I really do mean that today. Special guest, we have Shannon Holsey, who's president at Stockbridge Munsee Band of Mohican Indians, and Kate Nelson, an award-winning independent journalist. And really good to see you again, President. Long time no see.
It has, and congratulations on those new beautiful grandbabies, Robert.
Oh, really appreciate it. We get to watch them every Wednesday and Thursday, so.
You and Wendy have to be thrilled by that, huh?
Oh, definitely. You know, a little apprehensive at first and then you just can't stop but love them.
That's right.
You just can't wait to see them, and every week is different, and it's amazing. But enough about me. You guys have a big event coming up here, Uplifting Native Voices, here in Minneapolis, and in one of my favorite buildings.
Yeah.
We do. We have the What She Said panel coming up. It's part of a global speaker series hosted in the Fauché Tower, one of the most iconic buildings in downtown Minneapolis. And in honor of Native American Heritage Month, the focus is on uplifting Native voices, and what's more Indigenous than speaking with a panel of strong matriarchs here in the Twin Cities.
Absolutely, and I love the Fauché Tower. And welcome, Kate. I didn't see you there. You don't have your camera on, so I didn't see it. So welcome to Native Roots Radio.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, this is awesome. Let's talk a little bit more about this. It's a series of conversations. Kate, do you want to take it from there, and then I'll get back to the president?
Sure. Like I'd mentioned, it really is going to be a free-flowing discussion. I mean, we could probably go on for hours, but it'll be a free-flowing discussion. Doors open at 5. The speaker panel starts at 6:30. It should be a really delightful, robust conversation, but also an honest conversation about some of the issues that our tribal communities face. And, I think some of the topics that are front of mind for us. And in addition to that, there's also going to be a marketplace of Indigenous owned businesses that are, offering all of their handmade goods. So it should be a wonderful evening.
Yeah, that's awesome. And President Holsey, one of the things we always like to talk about is how, our allies too that come to these things, if these things are for sale, they're for everybody. So don't be afraid, but to purchase these.
Absolutely. Supporting Indigenous people is also engaging in this evolution of what we've seen, Robert, where there has been with Indigenous community entrepreneurship since time immemorial, from the original contact, but we're seeing an evolution of, our artists really finding a way to support themselves and do something that they're so passionate about. But as you know, Robert, it tells our story in a different way. It is not just to be enjoyed, but there is collectively a story behind everything that is made by Indigenous artists, and there's a story to be told and a story to be shared, and it's a beautiful thing. And sometimes, as we navigate, to your point, allies, sometimes that's the safest place to start because it invokes the conversation. It invokes, what that piece is telling us. And it comes from the lens of the artist and their lived experience. So it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it really is. Kate, we got Shelley Buck and Sharon Day and yourself and Shannon, President Shannon Holsey. That sounds like a great panel.
Well, and building on, what Shannon mentioned, it really is about, I think, breaking down some of those stereotypes that are just so commonly held about our tribal communities, that our experiences and our cultures are a monolith. And I think you're going to find that, even in the discussion, that we're all bringing our own lived experiences to that conversation. And, you bring 5 strong Indigenous outspoken women into a room, and we're not necessarily all going to have the exact same perspective on topics, which I think is the beautiful thing about what we're seeing and having Indigenous voices amplified, is that it's showcasing again just that range of our identities, our perspectives, our approaches.
Well, that's a really good point, Kate, that, there are 570 recognized tribes, and we all don't do the same thing the same way, but we're pretty similar, but not really.
Exactly. There are definitely shared values. What I like to say is, if anyone approaches me and says, well, you guys must all know each other. And I say, no, we don't. But the funny thing is there aren't that many degrees of separation, especially, in a place like the Twin Cities, where we have such a, really thriving, tight-knit Native community. But it is that idea that, again, we're celebrating our similarities and our shared values, but we're also celebrating how we're unique.
Yeah, absolutely. And Shannon, it starts at 5 and then it goes to 6:30, and I like it. It's a mix and mingle, and hanging out. And again, the Fauché is an awesome building, and it was made by the same person that made or designed the Empire State Building in New York.
Love it. Love the idea of the architecture to tell our story, right, Robert? But it's one of those things, where, like Kate talked about, it's an opportunity to re-engage. We all have foundational perspective, and we all have threads that enjoin us in different ways. But we also celebrate our uniqueness and diversity, and it's just another way to amplify that. Coincidentally, I'm sitting in my hotel room. I'm in Pewaukee at Santa Fe. I'm at the Violence Against Women's consultation. So we have our annual consultation for violence against women. And so it's an interesting time, where we're talking about celebrating women, but we're also here talking about how do we protect our women and our Indigenous relatives, right? And from not just the lens of just, from a sovereign lens of that of, okay, so as nations that self-govern, what does safety look like in our community? What are the unique challenges that we all face to protect our, relatives? And then certainly, we're not, as everybody on this call knows, but for your audience, tribal nations are not just race-based, we're politically based. So we have a unique relationship with the federal government for the treaties that we entered into for the dispossession of so many things we lost. But what I will say resoundingly is the one thing we didn't lose in all of that was our spirit and our preservation. We persevere absent any of the challenges that we have, since I always say we've been dealing with challenges for 500 years. And, as you see the climate and the environment change, so does the adaptability and the capabilities of Indigenous communities. And I truly believe Indigenous people, especially Indigenous women, have a lot to teach the world about, our strength, our resilience, and how we navigate the world, because they represent the backbone and lifeblood of our tribal communities. They have the most superpower, right? They bring life to the world. Does it get it any better than that?
Well, I agree 100%. And, we're led by our Native women, and I'm glad you brought that up. Kate, we're going to take a quick break here. We're with Kate Nelson, award-winning independent journalist, Alaskan Native, and also President Shannon Holsey, president at Stockbridge Munsee Band of Mohican Indians. And it's really good to see you again. I think the last time I saw you I was wandering around in Washington.
I think we were. I think we were at we were actually at a rally, Robert, for the Hallen versus Brackeen case with the Indian child welfare case. It was being heard at the Supreme Court level.
Yeah, definitely. And it's always good to see people like yourself out there supporting all these causes. And I know you're a doer, and it's great to hear from you, Kate, too. We're going to have another segment here and talk a little deeper and about these issues. And Kate, I just really appreciate meeting you for the first time here on Native Roots Radio, and our audience is really lucky to hear from two strong women, along with our producer Haley, making it three strong women. So I'm always outnumbered in a good way. Oh, wow. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick short break here. What do we got? About a minute. So
yeah.
All right. Well, Haley, this is awesome. We have two strong women, and we're talking about a lot of good things that we love to talk about here on Native Roots Radio.
Yeah. Please stay with us.
We'll be right back.
As we age, it's important to invest in our health and to help protect it. Like the flu, COVID-19 is always changing. That's why it's important to stay up to date on your vaccines. By getting the flu and COVID-19 vaccines, you can renew your body's defenses and lower the risk of getting sick. Get your health boost and protect yourself against the flu and COVID. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Again, that's vaccines.gov. Vaccines.gov.
Native Americans are more likely than white or Asian Americans to develop Alzheimer's or other dementias, yet our indigenous relatives remain significantly underrepresented in research. The Alzheimer's Association of Minnesota and North Dakota invites you to a special virtual event addressing dementia prevention and treatment for Native Americans. Join this Friday from 11:30 to 12:30 for a virtual presentation by Dr. William G. Manti as he explores disparities in dementia research and the unique challenges faced by Native American communities. Learn how partnering with tribal nations as essential decision makers can create better outcomes towards finally beating dementia. November is National Native American Heritage Month. This is a time to recognize the systemic barriers to dementia care, such as affordability, faced by 61% of Native Americans. With nearly 102,000 people living with Alzheimer's in Minnesota alone, the need for equitable research and care has never been greater. So join the effort to create a brighter future for our elders. That's a presentation about Alzheimer's and dementia impacting Indigenous Minnesotans this Friday from 11:30 to 12:30. Find the registration link at am950radio.com.
J&S Bean Factory is a Native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States.
And 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected.
Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf.
Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy.
As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired.
Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
It's okay to talk about mental health. It's okay to struggle. And it's okay to ask for help. It's important that we support one another and work together to end the stigma so that we can start to tell a different story about mental health and well-being in our community. If you're looking for support for yourself or want to find resources for a loved one, visit makeitokay.org to get started. That's makeitokay.org.
Step into the world of movement and Native culture at Nimiwin, now showing at All My Relations Arts. Nimiwin is translated as Everyone Dance. This moving multimedia exhibition, curated by Josie Hoffman, delves into the connection between movement and identity, drawing inspiration from dance and powwow traditions. It showcases the work of Indigenous artists from Minnesota, emphasizing the fluidity of movement in our bodies, land, and community. Witness Nimiwin and its powerful expression on Indigenous art. On display now through January 18th at All My Relations Arts in Minneapolis.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies tonight with a low around 32. Wednesday, about 1 inch of snow with a high near 35. And Thursday, partly cloudy with a high near 40. Looking for the perfect night out? Head to Crooner Supper Club. There's amazing shows all year long, and stop by Maggie's Lounge for cocktails and conversation. Visit croonersmn.com for more info. Crooner Supper Club, old school nightlife with a modern twist. That's Crooner Supper Club.
This is Leonard Peltier. I am in Coleman 1, U.S. Penitentiary, and I'm listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
Native American Community Clinic on Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis, honoring health and tradition.
Yes, they do. Hey, we are here with President Shannon Holsey of Stockbridge Muncie Band of Mohican Indians and Kate Nelson, award-winning independent journalist, Alaskan Native. Really good to have this talk. We're talking about the event coming up, What She Said, Uplifting Native Voices, and that's this Thursday, November 21st at the Poche in downtown Minneapolis. Just look up. I know there's a lot of tall buildings, but until 1973, that was the tallest building in downtown Minneapolis, believe it or not. Yeah,
I haven't been in there, but yeah, I heard it's going to be the event to go to.
Right on. So welcome. And President Holsey, I want to ask you a quick question. You know, talk a little bit about your background and how you got to this point in your work. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So, Robert, I'm going on 20 years in tribal government, 10 as the president. So that seems like a significant amount of time, but in tribal politics, it absolutely is. But I feel like I've always been civically engaged, but it was just a matter of, we all find ways to serve our communities. And, especially I feel like, especially for women in my nation, we have been historically underrepresented. I serve as the 4th tribal president, but no tribal president as the first. Number 4 as a woman tribal president, but I'm the only one that has made it past 1 term. So so the fact that I'm going on my 5th term is pretty remarkable. Like anything, we are all engaged in our tribal communities in some capacity, and I'm not title based. I say everybody is a leader in their own right. Everybody has a unique gift to bring their tribal nations or their tribal communities wherever that they are. And so for me, it was, what my goal was to really bring a traditional perspective seated in our culture, language, and tradition, but give a 21st perspective of how we were going to navigate a system or an environment that wasn't necessarily designed for us. I always tease people, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm dual language. And they're like, oh, you speak your tribal language? I said, no, I speak English and I speak the oppressor's language. I said, because that's really we're navigating systems that weren't designed for us or with us, historically. So I saw, the challenges that we faced in our tribal community. And I felt like I serving on the board of directors for over 10 years, I felt it was time for me I had gotten my education and I had done different things, but it was time for me to step up or step out. I felt like, I really needed to bring my nation around things and help organize, and interestingly enough, I never thought in my lifetime, in my career, that we would be able to manage, a pandemic, a global pandemic, and manage different things. I'm a child, a descendant of all 4 of my grandparents and grandparents are byproducts of the boarding school experience. They all attended. And so, and they have been through multiple challenges, including all of my grandparents were born before a time that they were even recognized as U.S. citizens. So it was a very challenging time, but yet I through their resiliency and their quiet navigation, I took great strength in that. And I felt like I owed it to them. I felt like I owed it to myself to put myself out there and be vulnerable and say, if men historically in our tribal nation can do this, then so can women, for the simple reasons that I expressed earlier. Women are represent the backbone and lifeblood of tribal communities, or communities in general. And so I felt like we needed to bring a different perspective, where we, we're able to present ourselves in our truest sense, be vulnerable, admit we didn't have all the answers, but try to build community and consensus around that, and build a healthy community. And so that was my primary goal and drive. I never aspired to be a tribal leader. I was literally, before I even ran for council, I was at a social justice event with Ada Deer, our dear friend Ada Deer, a former tribal leader, well known in Indian country, who helped her tribe regain their federal recognition after being terminated. She's run for political office. She's just an amazing woman. And so we were talking, and she was asking me, and so she's like, so what are you going to do? And I'm like, well, I don't understand what you're saying. She's like, well, you know what? It's time to put up or shut up. It's time for you to get engaged. Women need to hold spaces and positions and help navigate. And I'm living proof that it's possible. So, I took great strength from that, but I felt very supported too. It takes a village when it comes to these types of things, and it takes women to support other women in any capacity. That's when you have healthy, thriving communities. And, there is so much lateral violence that takes place in communities all over this universe, but especially you find that in tribal communities, especially with Native women. And, and I was just like, I need to example what healthy relationships among women looks like. And I need to be able to demonstrate that by my actions.
Wow. Well spoken. And wow, we really miss her too. She just passed on just recently.
She did.
Kate, yeah. Kate, what brought you to this point of your career in your life? What brought you to where you are?
I, despite being Tlingit, I grew up in northwestern Minnesota pre-internet. There are probably some people who have never experienced that, but magazines were how I connected to the greater world outside of my small farming communities. So I always knew that that's what I wanted to be doing. Came down to the University of Minnesota, studied journalism, started working in magazines, specifically lifestyle topics. So culture, art, food, travel, style, all of these topics that I think everyone can really access. And I was, until very recently, the editor-in-chief of a local magazine called Artful Living. And, it was really in 2020, after George Floyd was killed, that I think so many of us reflected upon, are we doing greater good? Are we, contributing to greater good with our time and our talents? And so how I got to covering Indigenous topics for, national, international media outlets started innocently enough. I wrote one story about Chef Sean Sherman opening up a Wamni, and that really made it clear to me, what a need there was for our stories to be told at this national level on these big platforms, and really to be accessible for non-Native audiences, which I think, our non-Native allies play such an important role in uplifting Indigenous voices, in uplifting tribal sovereignty. And, since then it just really blossomed organically. And now I'm focused on that exclusively. And again, it's still those same topics: art, culture, food, style. And I think, again, those are accessible ways for anyone, but specifically non-Native audiences, to learn more about tribal communities. And it's a way for, you might, like Shannon was saying earlier, you might really admire, let's say, someone's style, or you might think that someone's food is really delicious. And I think that that's a way to start a conversation. So that's really, what I'm trying to do with my work. And I hope that journalism, unfortunately, still just has there's such gatekeeping in terms of what needs to be in place for people to be successful. So typically includes that 4-year college education. It's about who you know. And, there are so many marginalized talents who might not have access to those things. So I really hope that I'm not only, bringing voice to our stories, but helping break down some of those barriers so that, by the time that I'm retiring, I hope that there are dozens of Native journalists who are telling our stories at these levels.
Well, Kate, I hate to tell you, but our work, we never retire.
I know.
Right, President Holsey?
No, they don't let you retire.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. And I'll tell you, Kate, too, how important your work is, because there are so many people out there that want to support Native businesses, Native stories, Native restaurants, and do it in the right way. So that's really important to the larger community, not only us Natives, but, we're still here, and we go through that conversation all the time. And, just to blow our own horn, we're on 30 stations now and have over 200,000 listeners.
Woo-hoo!
And people we run into, yeah,
That's
a little different when you were first on the show, huh, President Holsey?
I was, but it's still just as important today.
Yeah, and and it is important that we run into the community, that how many people do listen, and how many of our white allies out there really appreciate your truth and President Housley's truth.
Well, and I think the more of us who can be doing this work with, again, whatever it is that, we have been blessed with in terms of our talents, and just helping really shout our stories, shout our perspectives from the rooftops. There will never be too many of us in this work.
I agree, Kate. And I think, just to your point, that medium, right? It's to create, not only to celebrate our diversity and the unique gifts that we all possess, but also it's to create allyship and educate people about the significant contributions we've had to this country since time immemorial. And so, to your point, it invokes conversation. It invokes a safe place for people to ask those questions, and it helps build understanding, right? And it actually creates a level of visibility for young people who often feel invisible. They feel unheard, unseen, and invisible in the larger landscape of the country we live in, even the world we live in. So that is another way to celebrate that in a medium that's multi-layered, multifaceted, and it also allows us to control our narrative, because many things have been written about us, but it's his story, right? So we have to make sure that we engage in the message and how we want to be presented. And it takes people like Kate and others, Kate and Haley and Wendy and others, and even you, Robert, to get those platforms and mediums out there so people have a way of reaching out to us and within us, and to better understand or conceptualize who we really are as Indigenous people.
Yeah, well, I could talk to you people for hours here. This has been great, but I just want to let everyone know it's an event called What She Said, Uplifting Native Voices, starting at 5 o'clock. There was a mix and mingle, and then a panel discussion at 6:30, and then cocktails and connections. And I want to give a quick shout out to Melissa Olson, award-winning reporter at NPR, who's been on the show many times, that she'll be leading the way there. I want to just say a big peeny-gee, Kate, for coming on. Great to see you again, President Shannon Housley.
Always, Robert. Thank you, Robert and Haley, for having us. We look forward to it.
Yes, the pleasure is all ours, and hope to see you on Thursday.
Yes.
Hey, all right, I'll be there. We'll be right back. This is Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. Programming on Native Roots Radio is supported in part by MNsure. Looking for health insurance, but not sure where to start? MNsure has you covered. You can find discounts, compare private health plans, and see if you qualify for free or low-cost insurance. Plus, get help from an expert so you save on the coverage you need. Enroll online by December 18th for coverage starting January 1st. Get started today at mnsure.org. That's mnsure.org.
Native Americans are more likely than white or Asian Americans to develop Alzheimer's or other dementias, yet our indigenous relatives remain significantly underrepresented in research. The Alzheimer's Association of Minnesota and North Dakota invites you to a special virtual event addressing dementia prevention and treatment for Native Americans. Join this Friday from 11:30 to 12:30 for a virtual presentation by Dr. William G. Manti as he explores disparities in dementia research and the unique challenges faced by Native American communities. Learn how partnering with tribal nations as essential decision makers can create better outcomes towards finally beating dementia. November is National Native American Heritage Month. This is a time to recognize the systemic barriers to dementia care, such as affordability, faced by 61% of Native Americans. With nearly 102,000 people living with Alzheimer's in Minnesota alone, the need for equitable research and care has never been greater. So join the effort to create a brighter future for our elders. That's a presentation about Alzheimer's and dementia impacting Indigenous Minnesotans this Friday from 11:30 to 12:30. Find the registration link at am950radio.com.
Support for Native Roots Radio comes from the Walker Art Center, an art space that's more than the spoon and cherry. Galleries celebrate contemporary visual art, including Indigenous artists like Edgar Heap of Birds, Cheyenne and Arapaho Nation, and Jim Demini, Ojibwe. Additionally, films screen in the cinema, and performances are shown on stage. Free every Thursday night and free every day for members and citizens of tribal nations. Learn more at walkerart.org. Again, that's walkerart.org.
Anine, I'm Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and you are listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations. Howl!
That was a good howl. Hey, that's going to be an awesome event. What she said, Uplifting Native Voices, this Thursday, November 21st, West Minneapolis on the Fauché Tower. And that's just, that's an awesome building. And, you know, the way it's constructed too, each floor is like 2 inches, or I want to say 2 or 3 inches smaller than the next floor.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's really trippy. Wendy and I
didn't know that.
had our anniversary there one year.
Oh, wow. Cool.
It was weird too, because I don't know, there was a collapse of a building or something in Florida, and I was afraid of heights all of a sudden. I haven't been since, but it was weird. It was just too close, I guess. I don't know. But
does it have a balcony? Can you go outside?
No,
like
but you can go on the roof.
Oh, you can.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is like the Empire State Building in New York. It's
Yeah.
crazy. I mean,
Have you been to the top of that?
of the Empire State Building?
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple times.
Yeah. And good thing they have those fences that are like double the height of you.
Yeah, and I was years ago. I was at the World Trade Center too,
I
which
remember
is
that.
mind blowing
Yeah.
to think of. I haven't been to the new one, and that one's huge in New York.
Yeah.
But soon, maybe soon. But wow, it's great, and anyone can go there. And I guess too, I want to mention just a little bit too that it's very inexpensive to go there, and then they give you a percentage off on your parking, I believe.
Yeah, I think reading here, valet parking available at a $10 discounted rate. And I think if you go online, I think tickets might have been $20.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it, and
For sure.
I'm gonna try and make it. I won't be able to make it until after the show, but
Right.
it would be definitely worth going there and checking it out. And you know, Melissa Olson is again with NPR now, and I met her years ago. She did a documentary on her mother, an audio documentary
Oh,
of
wow.
her mother being adopted and visiting places that she grew up in, and mother since has passed away, but it was a great documentary, and I reached out to her after I heard it and had to get her on the show.
Yeah, of course. You said NPR, which kind of just got me thinking. Leah Lem, she kind of runs the Native News Initiative with NPR.
Yeah.
And she has a special screening of her documentary film, Finding Manoomin, A Search for the Spirit of Wild Rice. And this screening is actually tomorrow in St. Paul. It's at 1 p.m. and it'll be at the Kling Public Media Center's UBS Forum in St. Paul. And yeah, that'll be fun. Congratulations, Leah, on that documentary. Can't wait to watch it. The Journey of Wild Rice, Finding Manuman.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
very cool.
I know. Yeah, just got to shout her out for that one.
Yeah, Leah Lim's excellent. A good friend of ours here on Native Roots Radio, and I've been on their show a few times. Her and her brother has a show too on the radio on Amper's network across the Twin or Minnesota, I should say. So it's great. I didn't really know that about Kate either. That she was from Minnesota. That was interesting to hear too.
Yeah, really cool how she was kind of telling, like, she does magazines and journals and stuff, which I think is like, when you talk about allies and wanting to learn more, and it's like, what kind of resources or what kind of knowledge can we offer? And I think that's going to be comfortable and welcoming and like easy to access, right? And I think magazines and little articles like that are a great way to get started, and also like listening to shows or radio shows like this, and also going to the panel things that they do host.
Yeah. Oh no, go to these things. And what's really interesting too, Haley, I got to say this too. Of course it's Native American Heritage Month, but to me, a lot of times, a lot of stuff going on sometimes at the same time, and
right.
Not to mention our show, and it's just like that's a really good problem to have.
Oh yeah, I know. There's always good things going on, good people in the community hosting good work, and yeah, it's exciting. It's a good problem to have.
Yeah. So what else is going on here? I mean, let's talk a little bit. Ruth, they have that tomorrow, that exciting thing happening at a Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center, turning those units into single people units. Now they have capacity to have 24 people staying there on an emergency basis. That's amazing, and that's doing work for the community that is just so valuable. And I know they've been around for 40 years. So if anyone out there, throw them $5 or something, throw them some money at them. It's a really, really awesome organization.
Yeah, they have so many programs that help a number of our relatives, and especially our most vulnerable relatives who are unsheltered. And what a great, I'm so happy they were able to get all this building permits approved and ready to go for housing before we get snow on the ground, really. That's huge. And I want to shout out miwrc.org. You can check that out. They do have a donation page as well as a list of their programming. But MIWRC will be having their fall feast on November 25th. It'll be from 5 to 9 p.m. And that address is 2300 15th Avenue South in Minneapolis. There's going to be a drum ceremony, a blessing of sacred items, a traditional feast, of course, and a giveaway. So it'll be fun.
Hey, I think I have our friend Heather Keeler online. Heather, are you there? Oh, just a second here. I got to switch you over. Sorry.
Just a little quiet.
Yeah, I picked the wrong button. Heather, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, welcome. I see you're stuck in traffic. It's good to see you. We only got a few minutes left on the show, but thanks for stopping in.
Yeah, and also everybody be careful. I feel like with it being dark and just the weather and stuff too, just travel safe while everybody's out here. Yeah, I mean, I think updates are we're after the election, we're working on legislation. I think it's pretty clear in Minnesota that for us to get some things done in the House, we're going to have some bipartisan efforts. Things I've really worked on and things we've talked about are access to mental health, doing a psychiatric residential treatment facility on the west side of the state, but also, protecting our water and doing the best that we can to shore up, some of the Minnesota things that we can do in light of maybe what could come down from the federal government. And so we're kind of over the hump of being in our feelings about the election and kind of getting right into the work of things. So it's grueling, it's exciting, but we're back at it. That's for sure.
So you're in the St. Paul now, working at the Capitol, or are you?
Yeah. Oh. So right now our big thing, that's where I was all day. trying to just work on getting our draft legislation done. So we kind of are ready to go. The list of the committees came out, with us being a tied house. It's interesting because we're going to have co-chairs of the committees.
Oh.
Not sure how that's going to look, but we'll have staff on both sides to help with that. And then we got the list of committees. And so just the starting point of us really launching to kick off in January for session.
Wow. That's coming up quick. And I know I'll be down there talking to you about a few things too. And I suppose the sooner the better, correct?
Yeah. And really, the landscape's different this year than it was last year. We are going to have some bipartisan sign on really before I'm sure any chairs hear any bills and committees in the House, which is a way for us to do good work together. But, it's back on the community and organizers to do work on both sides of the aisle, which I think is probably good. And we can get some good stuff done. So.
Well, it's always great to hear from you, Heather. We only have 30 seconds left, but I appreciate you stopping in. The Minnesota Representative Heather Keeler, thank you, a big peony for stopping in and doing all the work you do for our community and our state.
Thanks. Stay safe.
All right, we'll see you. Hey, if you're listening to the show, you're part of the resistance from Chief Plentycoops, the ground in which we stand on. It's sacred ground. It is the blood of our ancestors. We need to resist, divest, join a group, run for office. We're still here. We are the seventh generation.
And free Leonard Peltier now. The city of Minneapolis